Hi and welcome again to Let's Study with Wang. Today we are going to be studying the teaching aptitude, that is the unit number 1 of paper 1. So I will not be able to finish all the contents of teaching aptitude in one video. So this is the part 1. So first we have to study First, we have to understand the concept of what teaching is. So here it involves two or more persons who influence each other by ideas and learn something in the process of interaction, and it should have a predetermined goal. So teaching is to fill in mind the learner of information and knowledge of facts for future use, and teaching is a process which learners, teacher, curriculum, and other variables are organized in a systematic way to attain some predetermined goal. So in the words of some famous renowned scholars, the first scholar is H.C. Morrison. So he defines teaching as an intimate contact between a more mature personality and less mature one, which is designed to further the education of the latter. So by Morrison we understand that it is also the involvement of two persons. The one is more mature and the one is less mature. So the more mature personality will be teaching the less mature one. The second scholar is N.L. Gage. He defines it as teaching is a form of interpersonal influence aimed at changing the behavior potential of one another. So it's somewhat similar to the first one. It's also involved two person when the lesser mature person, if his behavior is changed, then it is called teaching. And we have the third scholar, B.D. Smith. He defines teaching as a system of actions intended to induce learning. This is also associated with learning. And last but not the least, I have the last scholar, the famous scientist Albert Einstein. He defines teaching as a supreme art to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. So in his definition, it's quite unique, because in his definition, the art of teaching includes the joy in creating expression and knowledge. So there's a joy in learning. So after understanding the concept of teaching, let us go to the nature of teaching. So what's the nature of teaching? What is it like? There are some points I've given here: dynamic, social, humane. So this is the first point that I've given. Teaching is not a fundamental concept, but it is greatly influenced by social and human factors which are dynamic in themselves. So while teaching, the influences will be from all around the environment, that is dynamic, that is social and human. So it will be changing now and then. And it is both art and science. It is an art because there's a talent and creativity in teaching, and it's a science because it has definite techniques, procedures, and skills which can be studied systematically, described, and improved, making it a science. And the next point is diverse application. It is diverse because it can be in various forms, such as formal, informal, directional, instructional, formational, training, conducting, indoctrination, talking, showing, doing, remedial. So there are different types of applications which can be done in teaching. And the next point is it is a system of actions. Teaching is a system of actions varied in form and related with content and pupil behavior under the prevailing physical and social conditions. So it also involves different types of actions, as it also involves different types of how it can be applied in the first point. And the next point is a professional activity. It's a professional activity because it involve is a it involve a teacher and a student with a viewpoint to the development of students' personality. Professionalism helps students in being regular and making harmony with other objects towards those they are concentrated. So it's a professional activity means that the students are given a strict regularity on strict regularity when they are learning the things that are taught by the teacher. The next one is an interactive process. It's an interactive process because teaching is highly dominated by the communication skills of the teacher and the student. Teaching is an interactive process carried with purpose and objectives. The next point is subject to analysis and assessment. Let me move this a little bit. Okay. So subject to analysis and assessment because after the teacher has taught all the lessons, the teacher must also analyze whether the student understands it or not. So it also provides a feedback for further improvement. It's a specialized task. Teaching is a specialized task and may be taken as a set of skills for realization of certain objectives. It's a task for realization of certain objectives. A collection of various modes. Teaching is a collection of various modes itself. Is a broader term. Terms like conditioning, training, instruction, indoctrination denote the kind of teaching. So there are several kinds of teaching. They are a part of teaching but not a synonym of teaching. So those are all parts of teaching, not the whole teaching itself. And so there are various modes of teaching contributing towards teaching. And lastly, a lesson plan format. Teaching involves a lesson plan format in consultation with faculty from schools, colleges, etc. A lesson plan format is involved in 6E, that is the letter E and S. So the 6E stands for engage, explore, elaborate, evaluate, extend, and S stands for standard. So extend means the students are taken beyond the lesson. In explore, the students will be exploring more and the teacher will be will take the lesser role because the students will be doing most of the work exploring the knowledge that they have gained. Engage, elaborate, these are all the words, same meanings. And then let's go to the objectives. So broadly there are two models, Bloom's taxonomy and Gardner and Bridge model. So in Bloom's taxonomy there are again three domains: the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain. So let me explain what the domains are first, then we'll get to the parts again. The cognitive domain. Here, the cognitive domain is the knowledge-based domain. Here, all the knowledge-based domain will be here, and there are 6 levels of objectives: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. In the affective domain, is the emotional based domain. It may be motivational or emotional, and it has 5 levels. These are the receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, characterizing. And in the last domain, that is the psychomotor domain, the psychomotor domain consists of action based domain that focus on change or development in behavior or skills. Skills in the psychomotor domain describe the ability to physically manipulate a tool or instrument like a hammer and a hand. And the psychomotor domain are divided into 5 levels: observing, imitating, practicing, adapting, naturalization. So let's get to the first domain, the cognitive domain, knowledge. So what is this knowledge part? It involves recognizing and remembering facts, terms, basic concepts or answers without necessarily understanding what they mean. And in the second level, comprehension, it involves demonstrating understanding of facts and ideas by organizing, comparing, translating, interpreting, giving descriptions, and stating the main ideas. In application, it involves using acquired knowledge by applying facts, techniques, and rules. And in the fourth, analysis, it involves examining and breaking information into component parts and determining how these parts related to one another and finding evidence to support generalization. In synthesis, it involves building a structure or pattern from diverse elements. In evaluation, the last part, it involves presenting and defending opinion by making judgment about information, the validity or quality of work based on a set of criteria. So the cognitive domain from the start, let us remind again, the knowledge part is where the senses will be able to take in the basic concepts, and in comprehension these concepts are understood by comparing, by translating, by interpreting, etc. And this understood knowledge is then applied in the third level, that is the application. All the techniques and facts are applied. And in analysis the applied facts, techniques, and rules are then examined and then break into component parts, and then there are synthesis. Synthesis, it involves a structure or pattern from diverse elements, and lastly it is evaluated. Then we have the next domain, that is the affective domain. The affective domain consists of 5 levels. The first one is the receiving, that is when a knowledge is given to when a knowledge is given to a student, the student receives it, and then the next level, the student responds. It involves in participation of students because it is the responding part. And then after that, the knowledge is valued, how much the student takes in his mind or her mind is being valued. And in the next level, it is organized. When the students have taken information, they are being organized. Last is characterizing. It involves to build abstract knowledge, that is after collecting and organizing all the informations, the student itself characterizes what he have learned. Next domain, we have the psychomotor domain, which is also called the action-based domain. So in the first level, the students will be observing. This involves the mental attending of the physical event. And after observing that, he will be able to imitate it, and then he will keep practicing, and after practicing he will be able to adapt to it, means he will be able to do it by itself. And of course he will be able to make changes, minor adjustments, and after that naturalization will be done. Naturalization It involves individuals' ability to adapt, modify, or even design the new technique, methods, or procedure according to the requirement of a situation. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy, and in the second Gagne and Bridge model, we have verbal information, technique, intellectual skills, cognitive skills, motor skills, and attitudes. In verbal skills, it refers to the ability to state knowledge that an individual acquires. And in intellectual skills, it is the ability to solve problem using rules. So this is a more higher level than the verbal information. It is able to solve problems, rule learning, and concept learning. In the cognitive skill, he will be able to include his own methods. He'll be able to develop it. Thinking skills is also included. So and it is able to solve problem by creating rules. Motor skills, it refers to motion that are carried out with the help of brain, nervous system, and muscles. So these are the orders given by the cognitive skills. And lastly, in attitudes, these are referred to the internal state of the individual. Meaning that the objective of teaching is to benefit this attitude, benefit the motor skill, cognitive skill, and all the levels given in this model. So these are the objectives of teaching. So what must be taught? Why teaching? Why we are going to teach is because of this, so that they are able to perform their cognitive domain, their affective domain, the psychomotor domain, or they analyze their verbal information, intellectual, cognitive, motors, and attitudes. So after objectives of teaching, let us come to the levels of teaching. In levels of teaching, there are 3 levels of teaching. The first one is the moral level of teaching, and next is understanding level, and the next one is reflective level of teaching. So here in exam question papers, you can also find there are short answer types, essay types, and objective MCQs, multiple choice questions. So those questions are actually comes from these levels of learning. Memory level of teaching is only for their memory. They will just heard what the teacher said, and they will be able to repeat it or write it in the same manner. And in understanding level of teaching, the student will be able to understand the problem and will be able to solve the problem in the understanding level of teaching. Lastly, in the reflective level of teaching, the student will be able to come out with a new type, a new hypothesis, and he will be able to collect the data, and he will be able to test the hypothesis, and he will get a new result. So development of new knowledge is there in the reflective level of teaching. So we'll get more into detail in the part 2 of this session. Next we have the characteristics of teaching. Respect and care. There should be respect and care between the teacher and the learner. Significance to information and ideas. So more emphasis is given on the information and ideas, the facts, figures, etc. And there should be a comfort environment for the students. It is a skill-oriented task which has certain objectives to be achieved. So while you are teaching something, there should be an objective on taught to learn, what the student should be learning from that teaching. And it varies in form with different levels of students. So even in one standard of a class, say for example there's in class 5 standards, all the students have different levels of understanding and different psychological and different characters, so it will be different. And lastly we have the communication skills. So character of teaching is communication skills is very necessary in teaching. And next we have the requirements of teaching. So what are the things that are required in teaching? We need variables of teaching. So what are the variables of teaching? So a student must be there, a teacher must be there, and a curriculum, that is what must be taught. What are the methods of teaching? What are the strategies? So these are the variables. Role of infrastructure. These are the tables, the chairs, the pens, the pencil, the books. All are infrastructure. Next we have teacher-learner relationship. It's also a part of the character. Teacher-learner relationship should be good. It should be positive, and students should develop confidence. Teacher should assist, and a healthy teacher-student relationship affirms support and students to achieve their best. So up to here, these are all for teachers. Now let's come to learner. So who is a learner? One who tries to get knowledge is called learner. A learner is dependent and it's immature, because a teacher should be there to make him independent and to make him mature. So these are some of the characteristics of the learner: personal, academic, cognitive, social, motivational, or emotional. Personal character. There will be different types of personal character. Personal characters are those information about the learners, such as age, their gender, their cultural background, the language, socioeconomic status, etc. Academics. These are the educational level, learning ability, knowledge, co-curricular activities, etc. In cognitive, these are the this can be described as the mental pressure, how much problem solving skills they have, their intellectual skills, how much remembrance, and their memory skills, etc. They also provide to be so if adolescent learners move from concrete to abstract thinking, they also prove to be high achievers if challenged and engaged. Next, we have the social characteristics. Social character. Social characters are the assimilation potential of learning. It means how a learner adjusts to new environment. So how he copes up with the social environment, how he has how the relationship between his friends, the relationship between his friends, families, etc. So these are the social characteristics, how he behaves when he is with his friends, his peers, etc. They also overreact to ridicule, embarrass, and reject when learners are in their peer groups. They are highly influenced by their peers. And next we have the motivational, emotional. These are the important factors to achieve their goal, because adolescent learners show mood swing nature, which is marked by peaks of intensity and by unpredictability. They have a desire to become independent and search for adult identity and acceptance. So these are the characters of learners. Let's go through it again. For revision. This is the teaching aptitude path. This is the concept: two or more person influencing two other by ideas and learn something new. There must be some predetermined goal. These are the natures, should be dynamic, both art and science, diverse application, system of actions, professional activity, etc. These are the objectives: levels of teaching, memory, understanding, and reflective. Characters of teaching: respect, significance, creates a classroom comfort for students. Communication skills. Requirements of teaching are variables. These are the curriculum, the teacher and the student, role of infrastructure, and the relationship between teacher and learner. So who is a learner? One who tries to gain knowledge is called a learner. He is dependent and is immature. And characters are, each learner will have its different personal character: academic, cognitive, social, and motivational.